How many loved having an extra night of sleep last night? Yeah, me too. So I was reading an article yesterday about the time change and how, this time when we think that, it's going to be so dark. But at 4:30 in the evening, we can hunker down and put on our pajamas because it's dark already and watch our favorite TV. Like this is the time of year where we can just slow down and let things be, right? So in the same article, they talked about how the ancient Greeks had two ways of talking about time. One was chronos, which everyone knows, that's the clock, the chronological time. And then there's kairos, which is sort of divine timing. It's the time that we allow ourselves when there's an opportunity, when there's a moment of awe, when there's some possibility comes up and we become aware of it. And these moments, these times of kairos are not available to us unless we know who we are, unless we're ready. And it's always whispering, now, now, now. This is it. But we're not always open to it. We don't always hear it. We're not always ready for it. Until we know our own greatness. And once we know that, then opportunities open up, possibilities we see everywhere. So this time of year, we can literally say it's darker. We can also look at our world and say maybe it's darker. So it's a great time to be working with this book, The 5 Questions by Dr. James Mellon. We're in week 5 of our 7-week program. We still have copies of the book in the bookstore if you haven't gotten one, but it's a great new thought book. And we're on the 5th question. And the 5th question is, do I know how great I am? Do I know how great I am? Now, when I say that, how many of you kind of cringe? Right? And, it sounds boastful, doesn't it? It sounds like, really? Like, who do you think you are? I grew up Catholic, so 40 years of practicing Catholic and going to Mass, and every Mass hearing, you are not worthy. I am not worthy. We said that. I am not worthy. So just say, do you know how great you are? Ugh. I am not worthy. It was all about sacrifice and giving things up and celebrating and honoring the martyrs. I grew up not believing I deserved to be happy, that I deserved to see my own inner greatness. And what a tragedy that is when we come into realization of it and say, oh, I deserve this. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to see how great I am. And it's not great as an egotistical great. It's the divine essence. It's the greatness that's innate in every one of us. It's that inner light that's in with every one of us. And when it's dark, figuratively and literally, don't we want to go seek the light? Seek that light. It's hard to see sometimes, but just a little spark of light can light up a whole room. But we don't always see that. Dr. James says this about most of us: we have such a hard time seeing our own worth. Low self-esteem is one of the most common issues people face every day. And the crazy thing is that it is so insidious that it camouflages itself in an infinite number of destructive, unhealthy, and unhelpful conditions. Anger, fear, doubt, jealousy, regret, and anxiety are just a few of the ways low self-esteem shows up in our lives. And we've all experienced this from time to time, right? So last night I watched a movie that really illustrates this, how low self-esteem shows up this way. And the movie is called I Am Somebody's Child. Anybody see it? Nobody saw it first service. Nobody has seen it. Nobody has seen this movie. It's on Netflix. It's the Regina Louise story. Okay, now it's going to be dark at 4:30, so you can hunker down and watch it. Anyway, it's a true story about Regina Louise, who was a young black girl who, when she was very young, her parents abandoned her, and she entered the foster care system. During her childhood, she lived in over 30 different foster care families. And she was abused in many of them. And when she was just about to turn 13, day before her 13th birthday, she had said to herself, if they hit me with this hose one more time, I'm going to run. And it happened. And she left and ran away and turned herself into the police and said, I'm not safe. I need somewhere to go. And they took her to a children's shelter. And in this children's shelter, there were other kids, and a lot of anger came out of her. The kids didn't accept her. They just didn't accept her. And so they would say things, and she would get angry, and she had to go to detention at times. But she was still being placed with different foster families. And none of them worked. There was a counselor at the center named Jean Kerr. And Jean was a white woman, young white woman, who kept telling Regina how beautiful she was and how much potential she had and how she saw the good in her. And they started forming a bond, so much so that Jean decided she wanted to adopt Regina. And so they went, and the head of this children's shelter was against it. She was a black woman who said, a white woman has no business raising a black child. That was her view. She said, you have no idea how to raise a black child. You're not black. So they went to court, and Jean pleaded her case, and the judge wouldn't let Regina say anything, but it was between these two women, and the judge sided with the head of the center, of the shelter, and said, no, I deny your petition to adopt. The head of the center said, this child really needs to have some psychiatric care. She's violent, she lashes out, and obviously Jean thought she just needs love. She just needs somebody to love her. But Jean got fired from her job, and Regina got placed in a psychiatric ward where she was medicated every day to calm her down. Jean kept trying to visit her, and she was denied. She kept writing her letters, which Regina never got. Regina would write letters to her, which were never sent. And for years, this went on as Regina's a teenager. And at one point, Regina had been keeping the pills in her cheek and saving them up so that she had a whole handful of them. And one night, she tried to take her life. Took all the pills and went into the pool. She was found and saved, but something in her, because of that experience, because she was still alive, shifted in her. One of the guards knew that Regina had a tape recorder that Jean had given her, and it had been running out of batteries until it was totally dead, and the guard knew this. And the guard put new batteries in it and allowed Regina to hear Jean's voice. And it shifted for her. She decided that she wanted to live. She decided her life was worth living. She decided she had a dream, and her dream was to be a hairdresser, and she wanted to do the hair of movie stars. And she went to the head of the shelter and said, I want to finish high school, I want to get a job, and I want to go to college. And the head of the center said, why would you ever want to do that? You're 3 years behind in school. You're never going to catch up. You're never going to get admitted to college. You're never going to own a business. This is your life, this place. You're a ward of the state. And Regina did not give up and said, this is what I want. What do I need to do to get privileges to leave the building? And the woman told her, and she did it. And she educated herself. She had a very thick collegiate dictionary, and she started learning all the words in the dictionary one by one. This is a gift that Jean had given her. And she gets her privileges, and she finishes high school, and she gets a job in a hair salon. And then she gets a full ride scholarship to a college in San Francisco and learns business and how to open a business. And then we see her opening her own hair salon. She had to do this all on her own. Nobody believed in her. When she was 18 and left this place, this psychiatric ward, she was given all the letters that Jean had written her. And she sobbed. I'm crying through this whole movie. It's very sad. Hard to watch. Jean learned her own greatness. Not Jean, Regina. Regina learned to look within, to find her own greatness, to do what she dreamed she could do. She decided to write a book about her childhood. She did not want other children to go through what she went through the foster care system. She thought it was vitally important. She gave lots of interviews. She kept saying, is this interview going to be nationwide? She was hoping Jean would see it. She'd been trying to locate her and was unsuccessful. When she was doing a book writing, she was signing books for people, and there was a long line of people. And she didn't look up, and she said, what's your name? And she heard a woman say, Jean. And it was the woman that tried to adopt her. It was really touching. At this point, Regina's in her 30s, and they reconnect. And Jean says, I still want to adopt you. I still want you to be, you are my daughter. I see you as my daughter. And in the same room, in the same courthouse where they were denied years ago, they become mother and daughter. And it's a beautiful story, but it's a beautiful illustration of someone who had so many things going against her and still got in touch with her own inner greatness, her own inner strength. You know, you wonder, like, where does that come from? Well, it comes from the divine that is within us. Because otherwise, how? I mean, you just would go along with what the world is telling you. You're not going to amount to anything. It comes from within. It comes from within. There's another quote by Dr. James. Remembering who you are sets the stage for you to live an incredible life and allows you to forgive everything from a place of understanding and wisdom. Everything you experience in your life comes from the beliefs you hold about yourself. So the question is, what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe? Are you worthy? Are you deserving of happiness? Do you know your own inner greatness? Do you know how amazing you are? Or do you let other people's opinions just make you who you are? We have an opportunity always to look within, to know what we're made of, to know who we are. We're created in the image and likeness of God. We have so much more power, so much more potential than we ever can realize. And Martha Creek, who many of you know and love, she's actually going to be virtual with us doing a reimagining strategic plan in March. So we'll get dates to you soon. But she was the keynote speaker at the Affiliated New Thought Network retreat a couple weeks ago. And she talked about how God always outdoes her. No matter what vision she holds, no matter what she sees for herself, no matter what it is, God always outdoes her. And she's not talking about some God out here that outdoes her, Martha. It's the God within here that outdoes whatever her personality self can dream up. That there's always much more, it's much bigger, much broader, much more joyful than what we can dream for ourselves. So what do you believe about yourself is a really important question. Our beliefs are extremely important for how we live our life, for what shows up for us, because it's based on what we believe. And we get many opportunities to look within. We get many opportunities to remember who we are. And it's funny to me, it's funny, really, that I always get something that happens the week I'm giving a certain message that helps me remember how I'm not in alignment with it. I know, life is wonderful. It's an invitation. And so this week, right, how great am I? This week I had a moment, more than a moment, of finding myself being very impatient, very angry, very unminister-like, and not with just myself, in front of a group. Yeah, so fortunately, I didn't stay there for long, but we all come into our humanness. We practice it really well. We do humanness really, really well. But it's always an invitation when we wake up to who we really are, that we can pivot and we can make amends and we can apologize and we can be who we came here to be. And I was given that opportunity this week, and it was so wonderful. Yeah, how great am I? E.E. Cummings says this: it takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. It takes courage to walk away from gossip. It takes courage to realize your humanity and remember your divinity. It takes courage to be compassionate with people. It takes courage to love everyone, even those people we don't really like. It takes courage to look for the good and the light in every soul. It takes courage because that's not what we're taught out in the world. It takes courage to experience human emotions and not hang on to the story of them. We get to live this life and know these things and become aware of them and grow into them and make a difference. Make a big difference in the lives of those people that are around us. What do you believe about yourself? Believe the best. Believe the goodness that's in there. Believe the greatness that's in there. Because it's there. It's so easy to compare ourselves to other people. And when we compare, there's despair. And when we compare, we often, for me, if I compare my gifts to someone else's gifts, oh, I wish I had your gifts. I wish I had your gifts. I wish I had your gifts. And then I'm lacking because I don't have those gifts. See how easy it is to do that? Instead of just celebrating who we are and using the gifts that we have to make the world a better place. Because the world needs all of us doing our own thing, our own gifts. The world needs us to live by faith, to live by intuition. And there's a great example I read about yesterday. A man named Eric Weinemeyer. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? Can you say the last name? How do you say the last name? Weinemeyer? Okay. Eric. Eric, born in 1968, was a young boy at the age of 5 who had a disease, and it affected his eyesight, and he started going blind. By the time he was 13, he was completely blind. At that time, he could either shrink or shine. Shrink or shine. We always have the opportunity to shrink into our small selves or shine. He decided to shine. At 16, he discovered that he liked rock climbing. He couldn't see the mountain, but he could feel it. He couldn't see the peak. He couldn't see where to put his hands, but he could feel it by faith, by intuition. A few years later, he's the first blind person to summit Mount Everest. His picture was on Time magazine. Here's a picture of him. This is in Colorado, actually, at a 14er. He's 57 now. I don't know when this picture was taken. But he said, you don't need your eyes to see, you need vision. We need vision. After he reached the summit of Mount Everest, he did 7 more peaks in 7 different continents. And then later on, he did a kayaking tour with another blind person down the Grand Canyon, 244 miles or something like that. What an incredible illustration of somebody who was given a disability in his life that he could have looked at it as a disability, but he looked at it as an opportunity to let his greatness show. How many of us would be brave enough, courageous enough, strong enough to let some disability be an invitation instead of something we might look at as a punishment? It's a great story of seeing the greatness, even when you don't have eyes to see. Seeing the greatness within and celebrating that. A couple weeks ago was the Hindu celebration Diwali. And it's a 5-day celebration. It's a celebration or festival of lights. And there's fireworks and there's lights, and it's a celebration of the light within us. It's a celebration of the triumph of good over evil. And some of you might think, not a good time to celebrate that. We're not seeing it. But are we seeing it in our own minds? We have these spiritual abilities that we teach in Unity. One of them is the power of power. We taking control of the way we think, of the thoughts that we hold. We can use this power to see the greatness in ourselves and then celebrate it. We don't celebrate ourselves enough. We get so bogged down in the heaviness of life instead of celebrating the goodness. And there's so much goodness if we only look through a wider window. And so this week, your invitation is to see the goodness in yourself. Because when we can see it in ourselves, when we can know our own greatness, do I know how great I am? then we are more able to see it in other people. There's so much greatness in you. Use that inner vision to shine instead of shrink. And know how great you are. You are. Namaste.